toddler tantrums. They're gonna happen, so how are you gonna deal with them? Thank you to Lauren for having this wonderful question on how to deal with toddler tantrums. I did a video on how to avoid tantrums altogether, and I'll link that video down in the description below. But if you can't avoid them, you gotta deal with them. So let's talk. Tantrums can be case by case. It's gonna be different for every situation. I look at it as a tantrum scale, and what a tantrum may be for one kid may not be for another kid. Like the one could be just slapping a table and looking at you funny, and then you'll have all the way up to kicking and screaming and biting and hitting and full-on tantrum. So I feel like there's a scale there, and every situation is going to be treated differently. So I'm going to give you some examples on what tantrums there can be and then ways to deal with them. So the first tantrum I'm going to go over is what I call the silly tantrum, and usually these are from kids that are very good and don't have tantrums ever. It's once in a blue moon that they have a tantrum, but it's the type of tantrum where it's like they slap a table or give you a mean look, or they like just slap their hands together, and they're trying to get something out of you. And sometimes I actually laugh instead of get like mad, because I have to step back and just realize that this is her version of a tantrum, and that's funny to me because the tantrums that we usually think of are kicking and screaming and hitting and throwing things, but not to her. But I will say I don't laugh in her face. That's not appropriate. I do take it seriously when I talk to her about it because it's serious to her. So at first I ignore the behavior, and she usually just stops it. And then when she's done with her tantrum, I'll go over and we'll talk about what happened and why she was frustrated. So the next tantrum up from the silly tantrum is something I call like the self-contained tantrum. And that is basically they are to themselves. They may be stomping around the house or laying on the floor, kicking, crying, but they are not hitting anybody. They're not kicking you. They're not throwing anything. They're very contained. And they're on the floor crying and just stomping around the house maybe. I'm very serious and very clear on I don't deal with tantrums. They can come to me and talk to me when they're done throwing their tantrum, and we can talk through whatever the problem was or why they didn't want to do what I was asking. We really talk about I let them know that their feelings and their emotions are valid, and we explain and talk through the problem. Now, the big bomb, I like to call it. The biggest tantrum I've ever seen. I was working with a 2-year-old, and he threw a tantrum for 2 hours. 2 hours of kicking and screaming and yelling and throwing things, and man, I was about to start throwing a tantrum with him. It was pretty bad. But that big tantrum is, you've got to stay calm through it. It can be hard and difficult when things are being thrown, when you're being kicked, or I've been spit on, or hit, or they're going to hit other people, maybe a sibling in the same room, or anybody in the room with them. If they are going after somebody else or you, or throwing things, that is what I call the big tantrum, the big bomb. And I make sure they understand that that is not okay right away. That is not okay. We do not throw our toys. We do not put our hands on other people. And that's where I take them from a bigger, like say the living room, to their room where they are away from everybody else. Depending on the child and the parent's preference, their discipline preference, I will close the door and sit right outside the door so I hear what's going on inside the room, but they are contained and they can take time to chill out before we talk. And their room is probably the safest place to put them because it is their toys, it's kid-proof already, and it's their stuff, their comfort zone. I like to think of it as their comfort zone. So once we put them in their room, we talk about when they are ready, and they've taken time to themselves, again, they can come out and we can talk about what's going on, what happened for this to get this bad. But again, 2 hours is a long time to throw a tantrum. You got to keep it cool. Keep your cool. Just understand that they're going through something. Either it's emotions that they don't know how to convey over to you, they're feeling way too many feelings and they just don't know how to get it out. I mean, it could be a number of things, but you let them cool down, and then once they're ready to say sorry to everybody who they've hit, thrown things at, anything like that, and you, because they're being rude to you as well, they say sorry, and we talk about things that that led up to it. What happened? Why are we having a tantrum? Toddlers, and I'm talking like 1-2-year-olds, may not be able to tell you why they're having the tantrum. They could probably tell you what they didn't want or what they wanted that you didn't give them, stuff along those lines. But when it comes down to why they're having the tantrum or what feelings they were feeling, they're not going to be able to tell you. What set off the 2-year-old that had the 2-hour tantrum was the fact that he thought throwing toys was okay and was fun and a game, when it was actually pretty dangerous, and I told him he was not allowed to do it. So in my situation, I understood why he had started the tantrum, so I can tell him what happened and why this tantrum didn't need to happen, because I already knew the reason why. Now, if you're real confused on what happened to set these kids off, or the kid off, you're gonna have to ask questions like, what didn't you want? Or can you show me why you're mad? And I'm pretty sure you'll get to the problem. So tantrums can be all over the board, from the silly tantrums to the big blow up, the big bomb tantrums. I have some kids that I can just say, hey, we're not gonna have a tantrum today. Knock it off. We can either continue playing nicely, or I'm going to get up and go somewhere else, or we can just together go find something else to play with. And that works for them as well. So it's different for every child. Every scenario is going to be different as well. Like I said earlier, I did do a video on how to avoid timeouts or tantrums. So go check out that video here. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and thanks for watching. See you in the next video.